All right, we are recording now. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I was in Chicago for strategic coach. I may have mentioned this in previous. I guess I have mentioned this in previous ones because I've been excited about going. But yeah, so strategic coach is the brainchild of Dan Sullivan, who wrote some books with Ben Hardy, Who Not How, The Gap and the Gain, 10x is easier than 2x, that have really inspired me. There's a lot of their content on YouTube and other places if you're interested. But yeah, so I did my first in-person coaching session with a group of other entrepreneurs, and it was really fun to be there in Chicago. Their offices are really beautiful and comfortable and modern, and they took care of us with food and drinks, and the content was just great. Just made me think, made me do some work around what I need to do to grow my business and take care of myself, and um, so they preach balance, and that the more, I guess one of the takeaways this week was the more I give myself downtime, the more productive I'll be on my focus time. So anyway, that was great and inspiring. I can talk more about that another time. What else do I have for inspiration? Um, yeah, I guess that's other than that. I've been reading books, which I'm always doing. So I'm reading How to Live by Derek Sivers in bits and pieces, and that's great because it's 27 different ideas about the best philosophy for living life or a philosophy for living life. And that's fun because he makes really good arguments for a lot of different approaches to how to live. And then I'm also re-listening to Naval Ravikant, his tweet storm about wealth building. And he did an episode on his podcast just aggregating all the tweets he did about building wealth, and he has a guy interviewing him about it, so he's elaborating on it. So that's great because I love his attitude and ideas about wealth building and what's important, what's not, and what to focus on. So that's been really inspiring for me. And I'm reading also Unique Ability, which is another strategic coach book. It's just about finding your own unique ability. Everybody is unique and has things that seem easy for them that might not seem easy for others, or that they're naturally just sort of prone to be good at. And this book is about discovering that and putting yourself in the spot of using your unique ability most of the time, so that you're being effective in your business and happy at the same time. So that's my stuff. That's what I got. How about you, Jasper? What do you have? Yeah, she's dominant. Nice. Wow. Is that just from ads? Is that just from ads? Yeah, so how do they make money? They don't have a subscription or anything. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. 800 million is a lot in 10 years. Crazy. Oh, all right. Let's see. Business check-in. I've got some notes here, so I'll pull them up. Victories. I had an accountant meeting this week. It's been challenging to get a hold of my accountant and to get connected with him to get support on my business because I'm one of these people who is really good at being a visionary and growing things, but not a detail-oriented, accounting-brained, QuickBooks type person. So um, finally had a meeting with the accountant this week. I think I we got on the same page with what I need and what I need him to do for me. I think that I'm going to have him take over my books, which is very exciting because then I'll just have my books and my reports done well and managed and handled by somebody who is good at that stuff. And that's important as we grow because we're looking to grow, continue to grow in a big way, over the next few years. So I want the foundation of the books and the accounting in place, and it's not something I'm going to do. Last year, I did my taxes by the seat of my pants, just trying to make it up, and I'm sure I made a lot of mistakes, but I just for whatever reason I couldn't get a hold of an accountant to get it done, so I did it. Um, so that was a win. Clarity on my purchase agreement. I wrote down how to keep AMDs. So we had a buyer. This is a victory because I had a conversation with an attorney about how to retain EMDs when we have buyers who flake on us. So I can go into more detail about that, but I had a good conversation with how to tweak our purchase agreement and other strategies for EMDs when buyers flake. So maybe I'll talk about that later if we check in about tools and tips and stuff. Um, Closed two. We actually closed three. I put three in parentheses because one of the deals we closed was. I'll just claim the victory. We closed three deals this week. Um, I can talk to the other one later, I guess. But then working on a subject two deal is exciting and fun for me. That feels like a victory. We because we're doing a cold caller and we're doing some different types of lists and high equity. Um, we got a sub two lead came in this week, and I've been working on that one. I think we'll put it under contract this week. So that's always exciting and fun for me because I like to do creative deals. And it's funny because I'm trying to teach my acquisitions team how to do different types of deals than not just wholesale deals. So we're talking about novation and subject to and stuff like that. So I was putting together a process map for them with different resources, and I pulled up the podcast from when I was on the Sub Two Deals show when I did my first Sub Two a few years ago, and it was fun for me because I was so excited about it, and I had no idea what I was doing really with Sub Two. So um, it helped me to remember the excitement and the fun of it and the energy of it, and that you don't have to have all the answers in order to do a deal. You just have to do something, take some action, and then you create momentum, and then you kind of have to do the things to get it done. So that's a good reminder of the ready, fire, aim mentality. Like you don't have to get everything or know everything. You can just take a shot and then figure out the answers as you go. KPIs, we closed three. We didn't sell any last week. We've been a little bit low on inventory. We've got a couple of things that we've got sort of in inventory, but we're dealing with some tenant situations and various things that are not allowing us to really market them. So uh, disposition has been a little bit slow. We got one contract this week, which is also a little bit slow for us. We've been doing more like three per week. So hopefully we get a bigger week next week on contracts. And then one of my acquisitions people put in some monthly KPIs. So we had 172 leads, 71 offers, and 9 contracts in February. So again, that's a little bit behind. I want to be at 3 to 5 contracts per week, really. So we're working on building that. Talk to that more in challenges or opportunities. So 71 offers and 9 contracts, that's like 12% contract rate. And we've been more in the 15 to 20% rate range. So I want to look at that as well. But challenges, increasing the lead flow, this sort of segues into that. We need more leads to get more contracts, to have more stuff for Dispo to do, to hit our revenue goals. So I heard a cold caller a couple of weeks ago, they're bringing in, this is our second week, and I actually don't know how many leads they brought in this week because I didn't get that report from acquisitions. I'll probably get it on Monday. But 25 leads the first week, so I don't know what they did this week. But I'm thinking I need to maybe hire another cold caller or up the SMS. But the SMS is like still at like 11 or 12% response rate, which means we spend a whole lot more money on data and lists because the response rate is so much lower than it used to be. So it's probably still cheaper than direct mail, and direct mail, takes a long time to get returns on. And if I'm trying to get results for this quarter, I probably should either hire another cold caller or start right away doing more texts, send more text. Well, my text guy is kind of at his max right now, too, in terms of daily what he can manage. So it might mean me adding another SMS person or adding another cold caller to get to where I want to get. Um, and then the challenge. This was, I said it was in victories with the EMD thing because we had this seller who the buyer just canceled on us and didn't apologize or didn't really seem to care at all. Just was like, oh no, I changed my mind. I'm not going to close on this. I found a better deal. So we're like, okay. And so then I reached out to the attorney and I was like, hey, can you give us that EMD? We've got an email and a phone call recording from the buyer saying he's not going to close this deal. And the attorney did not feel comfortable doing that. And we've run into this before, Jasper. We've talked about this on the podcast of like attorneys don't feel comfortable because then they can open themselves up to a lawsuit if they don't give the EMD back. And I'll just try and hit the high points of the conversation I had with him because it was really helpful. What he was saying is like in that offer to purchase that real estate agents use, there's a due diligence period. And then, after the due diligence period, then the EMD goes hard money or, becomes property of the seller. So he was saying, add that into your contract because our contract says, if the buyer breaches, we're entitled to the EMD and it's remitted to us unilaterally. We don't need to do the other thing that happens is people want you to sign a termination of contract and get the buyer to sign it, which they're never going to sign, So, we put in unilateral if buyer breaches. We put in language such as if the buyer is in breach of contract, EMD is released to seller / assigner, without need for the signature unilaterally, whatever, this language is to just spell it all out so that we can get the EMD. But he's still not comfortable with it. And so he was saying if you did a due diligence type thing and you said, the buyer has 3 days due diligence or whatever you want to do, 48 hours or 5 days, whatever feels right. And at that point, the EMD becomes, if the buyer has not raised an objection or canceled the contract, becomes property of the seller. So that's one way to do it, to make it more ironclad so that because what he was saying is that the next interval that for an attorney they feel comfortable with is if the buyer misses the closing date. So then if if he misses the closing date and he hasn't closed, then I feel very comfortable giving you the EMD because he's obviously in breach. But he's not as obvious in breach prior to that, even though your contract has this language, because the language doesn't define what breach looks like is clearly enough. So you have to really clearly define all the itemized ways that the buyer could breach. Like, could I put in there, if buyer sends an email or gets a phone call that says they're not closing, then he's in breach of contract. Like you either have to spell it out really clearly or do the due diligence thing or get your EMD back after the buyer does not close on the closing date. And in that case, the attorney is saying that, if the buyer reaches out to him, then he's kind of in a bind because then he's got to have an interaction with the buyer. But if the buyer just tells us he's not closing and then he doesn't close, but he hasn't reached out to the attorney, then the attorney is going to give us the money after the closing date has passed and he hasn't, because then it's in breach. So anyway, these are some things I learned. And then obviously the other one that we've talked about previously is just get the buyers to give you the MD, because then you have control of it and you don't have to ask the lawyer to get your AMD back. So it still remains an ongoing issue. I keep thinking I've put my contract clear enough so that I don't have this issue, but I'm going to do the due diligence thing and then have clear language in there that if buyer does not cancel within the due diligence period, the EMD is property of the seller, you know, and if like just dial that piece in and then maybe define the breach a little bit more clearly as well. So anyway, that's a brief sidebar about that. Um, And then, yeah, we already talked. I had a note here to talk about strategic coach, but I don't know if there's a whole lot more to talk about with that other than, what I already said at the top. And then I guess accountability for me and commitments I want to make this week is implementing the strategic coach tools that we worked on this week, which is the strategy circle, the and entrepreneurial time management system of free days, focus days, and buffer days. And then also, what was the third thing? Seems like there was a third one. I can't remember. But anyway, I'm going to review and implement those tools that we worked on. And then I've got to take some action on increasing lead flow. So I'm definitely open to feedback, Jasper, if you have any thoughts about that. I'm a little bit resistant to hiring a second cold caller when I don't have a solid body of results from the first cold caller. I mean, I know that you've used the same company that I'm using and you have good results. So probably it's safe for me to just bring a second cold caller on to goose up the lead flow. Um, and so that's one thing I could do. The other thing I can do is do additional direct mail. We're doing 2 campaigns a month right now, but that's a longer time horizon for getting leads. I mean, none of these things are probably going to affect my first quarter at this stage anyway, but and then the third thing, it's SMS, it's direct mail, and it's cold calling are my 3 marketing channels. And so I feel like I need to goose up one of those to get to where we need to be, because so far the first 2 months we're not there. So yeah, open to any feedback on that, or goose up all of them for that matter. Maybe I need to do three direct mail campaigns, add a second cold caller, and double our text messaging, because and I mean, it is a numbers game. I just get scared of it, because then it's like, oh, that's a bigger budget for marketing, and then I have to hire more people to manage it, and that's work for me. So then I just have resistance come up. Excuse me, I'm plugging in my computer really quickly. Just pop down here. But yeah, let me know if you have any thoughts about that. It's probably what I should do. Just double all of them and then hire on the fly in terms of what I'm going to need. Like, I think we've talked about this before, but I think I need a lead manager in acquisitions right now, somebody to do some closing calls and who knows some of these strategies a little bit. Sub two, novation, wholesale, owner finance, just has some familiarity and some more experience with closing. And maybe I add that person, and then maybe the next person I add after that is like somebody who jumps in and helps with SMS or analysis or something, But I think everything I need to do is on the acquisition side. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Oh no, yeah, I'm just trying to goose it up so that I can have a good year and not like be looking at it halfway or two-thirds of the way through the year and going, oh man, I got to scramble. I'm trying to do it now, you know? Yeah. We might as well check in about this for the listeners too. What's your response rate on SMS right now? Because mine is still at 11 and 12%, which is, means we have to buy more data and stuff than we were a year ago. And I've just messed with my templates, and then we got flagged last week because I was trying to make my language a little bit more aggressive, and I guess I made it too aggressive. Yeah, we got flagged a couple times, and they're telling me it's because of the opt-in language, but it wasn't. The templates we were using didn't have opt-in language, so I've got to get with launch control and have them review our templates and tell us which ones need to be tweaked. But yeah, we've been at 11 or 12 just for frame of reference, and then let us know where you're at, and we'll see. Um, and we were at 17 or 18 last year, so that means you're buying, 50%, a third more data, right? We're buying because it's not quite double, but it's a good chunk more. It's like we're buying, yeah, yeah. And how many SMS? Do you know how many SMS you're doing per day on average? Wow, that's a lot more than what we're doing. We're doing like 1,500 to 2,000 a day. Yeah, and follow-ups. Yeah, that's a lot more than what we're doing. So maybe I need to look at goosing mine up and see if my SMS specialist can help handle it, or if we need to add somebody on. It's just I do have a resistance to buying all the data, but that's a good way that you put it. That you're not spending money on the people right now, so the more data and skipping that you're spending, um, he's doing a few other things within acquisitions, but listen, yeah, he's been sending out offers and stuff too, which yeah, I might need to get an admin person on board, just have somebody who just does admin stuff. But yeah, it's good for us to go over that. Hopefully, that's helpful for the people listening, at least in terms of what were the results we're experiencing. And we were both doing much more volume last year before everything went south. I was doing a ton of volume. I don't even know what my numbers were, but we were going crazy with it, and it's dropped. But I think go ahead. Well, I think the leads are probably maybe a little bit better too because of the change in the templates. Like people can opt out, right? So if somebody's actually responding, then you probably have more of a likelihood of doing business with them than just people like saying who's this or whatever, just the random stuff. Yeah. And that's the funny thing about it is that like 56 per lead is still nothing compared to direct mail. And I don't know what your cold calling numbers are, but I mean, I think direct mail cost me like $150 a lead or something like that. They have it. Yeah. The quality of leads, I would say, in when I do direct mail is higher. I think that our conversion rate, if I were to break it down for direct mail leads versus SMS leads, I think we're converting more of those offers into contracts. But the cost is, three times as much. So yeah, no, that's good. I think it's good for people listening if they're looking into doing text marketing or they just want to get a benchmark of where things are. So hopefully that's helpful. Um, well, yeah, let's switch over and check in about your business. I appreciate it. It is helpful for you to encourage me to double down on everything because I just, I get resistance coming up and it's just like, it is a numbers game. So we just have to just have faith, right? That's the thing, having faith. Because, like, yeah, you can just throw out marketing and, you know, I like to know that there's something, to validate just throwing up money out for marketing. So, like you, I like to look at all the KPIs and what's my cost per lead, what's, all the nuts and bolts of it. But at the same time, you could do none of that and just go, hey, I'll just throw more money on marketing and you make more money. I mean, I think some people who do wholesaling who grow really fast and all of a sudden they're at like a million a month, they're just like not worrying so much about the KPIs and just going, oh, I spent this much, I made this much, let me just spend more. And it just works, right? So maybe I need to be a little bit less conservative. But yeah, let's switch over and do your business check in. Jasper, what do you have for your business for the week? I think it's a good thing. I like it when you do it. Nice. Yeah. 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 Trust me. Yeah. Oh my god. I was just gonna say that, yeah. Did you ask him for a price in advance? Yeah, so that's a good tip. Make sure if you're sending somebody out to a property, you get a price from them advance, because some people will take advantage and try and, inflate the price because 'cause you're out of the area, or they think you're a real estate investor, so you have a lot of money so they can gouge you. Because 'cause I've had it happen too, where people don't give me a price, don't give me a quote, but the last time I had that happen, I was just like, "That's too high, man," and then he reduced the price. That's great. That's great. Yeah, wow. Sold it. Yeah, yeah, you get those too. Yeah, yeah. Well, I've got a thought about that, which is maybe take all those people that you can't get responses from and put them in a direct mail campaign, because sometimes when you get people who aren't responding, like I've had the same pain that you have of like, we follow up, follow up, follow up, and then when they finally respond, it's like, oh, that's sold, and then we check and it's actually has sold. Like sometimes people will say it's sold just to get off the back, but then sometimes it's actually sold. But what if you just took all those people and put them in a direct mail campaign and just say, "Hey, been trying to reach you about the house. Give us a call." Because some people respond to mail versus text versus voice. So if you're just trying to get them on the phone or just trying to text them, they might be somebody who would be more open to a letter or a postcard. Just a thought. Do we get a lag in the audio? Okay. I think we're back. Anyway, yeah. Can you hear me now? Oh, okay. Yeah, I would say that hiring 5 people to do live transfer is probably not a thing that you want to do right now. Add 5 people to your team, but maybe a direct mail thing could work as an alternative. Hey, I refreshed it just to see if that would make a difference on the audio. Can you hear me? We still have a delay. Man, I don't know. I guess my Wi-Fi signal is weak in here. We just got the Lumos, the broadband, but for some reason it's not. Might need to get a booster in the office. How's it? Is it still delayed? Yeah, yeah, I think it's delayed. Try to here. I don't know. I just came outside to see if I get better contact with the modem. I can hear you just fine. Okay. Where were we at? Try going in the house right next to the modem. See what happens if I go in here. Ah, is that any better? I'm gonna refresh. Hey, can you hear me? Hello, hello. Okay. All right. Well, let's wrap it up, or let's go back. Try and go back to where we were. So, yeah, we were just talking about that. Like, all I was saying is maybe direct mail because sometimes people respond to different formats differently, and you might be able to reach those people. Because it's like if we're talking to people on text and phone, but then all of a sudden, finally we get a hold of them and they're saying it's already sold. Then how did the person who bought it get a hold of them? Maybe they sent them a postcard or a letter, and that's why they got them. So I'm just saying to try all the different modes, um, and then and it doesn't seem to make sense to to hire a whole bunch of people to do live transfer. That seems like it's more work than maybe you want to do right now to add 5 team members or 5 subcontractors or whatever. Sure. Yeah, and if you want feedback on direct mail, I've been using a couple different companies, so I can give you whatever I have on that. I've been using Yellow Letter Shop, but I also use REI Print Mail, and they both have their strengths and weaknesses. Yellow Letter Shop has been very slow with response time, and getting back to us, getting the things launched, communicating with us has been a little bit of an issue. So I'm gonna talk to REI Print again about that, and they're a little bit trickier with their setup, like getting everything set up the way you want it, but they're very responsive and very on top of things. So both have their strengths and weaknesses. But yeah, I can talk to you more about it offline if you want. And for anybody who's interested, feel free to reach out if you want to hear more about direct mail and my experience with it. I've been doing it for about 3 years now. Your camera's cutting your chin off a little bit only when you lean forward. Yeah, yeah. Oh, let me see if I wrote anything down here. Yeah, I don't think I had anything else for tips and tools or anything. I was going to tell that story briefly about the one property that we missed the boat on. Um, just as a cautionary tale, we closed one of the deals we closed this week. We made 16K on, which is great until you hear that the person we sold it to made an additional like 30K on top of our 16K, and then it's painful. So so we got this thing under contract for 25. It was a sort of a fixer upper house, and we decided to buy it because we knew that there was a good profit in there, and the seller was a little bit squirrely, and we didn't want to. We just wanted to get it under control, so we bought it for 25 cash, and then which cost us 26 by the time we paid closing costs and stuff. Then we sold it for we sold it for 42. We were asking 45. We sold it for 42. So there was our first mistake is we didn't really first of all, we should have just started at a higher price, but we didn't do our market research enough. I knew there were comps in the area for over 100, but thought I guess we just thought it needed a lot of work. We had pictures and stuff. We're like, "Oh, this needs too much. We're just gonna sell it to a flipper and give them plenty of margin to do the thing." So we we put it up at 45. We bought it for 25. We figure that's pretty good. And then we sell it for 42. They negotiated us down to 42. We're like, okay, we're still making at that time 17 before we bought it. So, and then we go to start to close and we find that they're selling it for 75 to somebody as is that was going to come in there and the owner financed it for 75. So point is we got the deal for 25 and somebody's selling it for 75. So there's 50K of meat on the bone, of which we took 16K. So that's painful. So I think the lessons there are just to, start off high. You can always drop the price, but you can't raise it. Another lesson is get more than one buyer to look at something. This was the first buyer. They had missed out on a previous deal of ours that they wanted. So they came right in and put in an offer right away and signed a contract. So that's another lesson is like let multiple people look at it. And then what else is there? I guess just do the market research and make sure that you know what you have so that it's hard work to get these deals and you don't want to go and get a deal that you could have made 30 or 40 or 50 on and make 16 on it, even though that's a nice profit. I'd rather make 30 or 40. So um, anyway, I just thought I'd share a lesson out of my pain because I was very painful and I was trying to figure out ways to cancel with the buyers and like get out of the deal, but I felt like I couldn't find a way that was also in integrity and integrity is important in our business. Like we could have just canceled with the guys and not closed with them and put it out to other buyers and sold it for much more and made more money, but that's not how I want to do business or how I mean reputation is important in this business too and I plan on being in it for long term also. So anyway, I tried to find a way out of the deal. I was hoping that the buyers would not follow through and do their part so that we could sell it to somebody else, but they did follow through, so we closed it. So like I said, it's a victory to make 16K on a deal and it's a pain point to leave money on the table. So just thought I'd share that. Anything else that I missed that is learning in there, Jasper? I know you've been there before too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good rule of thumb. Yeah, I know what you're saying about bid it up, but unless you have a ton of buyers, like we don't have still enough buyers on our list that we're going to get bidding wars going. So I'd rather just start it high and then get feedback. Because buyers will give you feedback. They'll be like, "Oh, that's way too much," and then you can just say, "Oh, well, what would you pay?" And then you get the idea. So anyway, all right, that's all I got. Yeah, I know. I think Facebook is better for me, or I'm on TikTok too, but I don't know what my handle is on TikTok. But it's Yeah. Over and out. Oops, I did it again.